He's making a list and checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice.
There's still time to redeem yourself. Yes, you can make my nice list. You really can if you try really hard.
But that's it, isn't it? You're going to have to try really hard. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of The Nice List. Now, this is where we shine a warm holiday spotlight on the people, the traditions, and the moments that make the season a little bit brighter. Now, we just spent 3 months, and we had a blast, but we spent 3 months putting holiday offenders on notice for being naughty, and now it's time to bring out the stuff that we love. So every Monday in December, we're going to pick 2 or more Christmas items or characters, maybe memories, songs, definitely food, different movies, and basically anything else we can think of that bring us joy every year at Christmas. And if you have any recommendations that you'd like for us to share on the Nice List, you can send those to us at christmaseverydayshow@gmail.com, and we will absolutely talk about them. So, the very first entry on the Nice List is one that I hope a few of the listeners are familiar with, and it's one that I think about every single year. Now, most of my favorite memories at Christmas time come from being at my grandmother's house, and we went there every Christmas Eve, and we just had the best time. It's just a tiny little house. There were like 1,200 people in there, and it was just the best time in the world. Now, she lived in an old neighborhood in West Nashville, and most of the houses all looked the same. They were these little tiny, little square, just little tiny houses, maybe a bedroom or two. They had the flat fronts on them and, maybe 1,000 or so square feet. I mean, they were just, little bitty houses. And every Christmas Eve in her neighborhood, when we were driving in to her house, on at least 3 or 4 houses, you were guaranteed to see it. It was the lone window on the house that had Christmas lights on it. You've seen it before. It's the little house they've got 2 or 3, maybe 4 windows on the front of the house, but only one strand of lights around one window frame. And no other lights are hung up on the outside of the house. I love that. I don't know why. I'm about to tell you why. I think most people do it though. So to most people, that would kind of seem like a pretty pedestrian effort. One window isn't knocking anybody's socks off. And as a child, I never really figured out or understood why anybody would only do lights on one of their windows. But like I said, I have a guess now, and I hope it's the right one. It took me a number of years to come up with this one, but I like to think that the folks who only put up one strand of lights on one of their windows on their house, I think they said, I may not have a lot of money, and, I may not have the nicest house. I may not have much in the way of gifts this year from my family, but I love the Christmas season, and I'm going to do what I can because it makes me feel happy to see these lights up in my window. They may not have had lights for the whole front of the house and for every window, but they loved the season, and they showed it in the best way that they could with what they had. And you know what? I'll take that. I will take that over the house that has the lights all over the place, and they've got the net lights up on the bushes, and they've got all the trees decorated, and they have all the inflatables up in the yard. I'll take that one window over all that stuff in the world because, that could be the best that they could do. But you know what? It sure beats that house next door that didn't put any lights up, doesn't it? I think that it does. And it shows a simple love for Christmas. And I'm a simple kind of guy, so I can relate. So lone lit up window, you are always going to be on my nice list. I will take that any day of the week. I went out looking at Christmas lights a week or 2 ago, and I saw some really cool stuff. And there were some yards that were done up very extensively and very festively. But I also passed kind of going through a neighborhood that I wouldn't necessarily love to live in. But there was the lone lit up window, and I stopped and I just gave it one of those claps, and it was just a great night. That made my night. Anyway, so lone lit up window, you're the first entry on the list. Now, next up on the nice list, we're going to go with another kind of childhood staple most people do this obviously every year. Putting up the Christmas tree. That was always one of the best days of the holiday season for my family and for me growing up. Now, on the occasions that we all didn't get to go with my dad to pick it out, we would wait very, very anxiously for him to get home with it. And, it was always a live tree. There wasn't a cell phone. We didn't have, hey, Dad, there's no text messaging. Dad, when are you coming home? Can you stop and get this? We just, whenever he got there was whenever he got there. We just had to wait for him. And we never knew when he was going to get there, but it was just always, we would be watching out the window. Is he here? Is he here? And man, he'd pull in that driveway. We would just run for the door. And it was so awesome. And, when he got home, it started off the most chaotic 2 hours that you've ever seen in your life. And of course, we always wanted to help him get it in the house. We wanted to get our hands on it as quick as we could. We wanted to be a part of it. And he was so good. And, he let us. He was like, okay, you grab this and you grab this here. And of course, we weren't helping out all that much. We were little kids, but he let us help him because we wanted to. And that's one of the best things maybe that I could think of ever. So then we would have to clear out the place for it in the living room because why would we have done that before he got there? That doesn't make any sense. And we had to bring the stand in from out. We had to bring the stand in from the garage, and Dad did a little trimming, and then we put the tree up. And then it was time for the lights, and which ones we had back in the 70s and 80s. There was those big C9 suckers. I don't know how many strands we had, but it was it was enough. And those things got hot, man, but they were so cool. And the decorations came out next. And I'm pretty sure that we had the exact same ornaments for 10 years straight without adding any new ones. Now, we may have lost one or two here or there. I don't know that we really ever gained any new ones. But once the decorations were up, then, really the only thing that we had to do was put an obscene amount of tinsel on the tree, and that pretty much finished up the job. Now, we had a 14-foot A-frame type ceiling in our living room, 14 feet. My dad built a house. I guess he wanted a big living room. So naturally, we always wanted one that went up to the ceiling, and he never denied us that. No matter how hard it was to get the tree home and to get it set up, he always did that because, we wanted it. And I think he wanted it too. But, there were just these scratch marks on the ceiling from where the tree hit it. And, it was just the coolest. And then, so he would get it up and the tree's done. And some of my best childhood memories are just laying in the floor in our living room in front of we had this little kerosene heater because, 14-foot ceiling, the room stayed pretty cold down where we were. So we had a little kerosene heater in there, and I would just lay in front of it and just get nice and toasty. And I would just lay there and look at the tree. And it was just I just love doing that. Just lay in front of the little heater and just look at the tree. And to this day, I have an affinity for any kind of candles or, wax melts or any kind of air freshener or anything that smells like a Christmas tree. And it's because of the trees that my dad got us when we were little. And so even with the artificial trees that we use now that I'm grown, I haven't had a real tree in a long time. Putting up the tree is always going to be one of the most exciting parts of the season, especially because my wife can decorate a tree like nobody's business. And, she does a way better job than I would be able to do. We actually put our tree up today, and it's kind of late, but we already had one tree up in our den. And then so now we've got the other one put up in the living room. And it's not even decorated yet, and you should see what my wife's done with it. It's just an incredible job. So anyway, another exciting day, but man, was that not just the best? Is putting up the tree not just one of the best parts of Christmas? All right. Anyway, that does it for the nice list this week. Now, please check in with us next Monday for the next episode. And remember, it's never too late to get on the nice list. But buddy, you're running out of time. Merry Christmas.